Okay. Good afternoon. This meeting of the Committee of Adjustments for August the 10th, 2021 will come to order. Members of the public, staff, presenters, and members of the committee, please be advised that meetings are broadcast and recorded and made available on the internet. Is there any disclosure of pecuniary interest and the general nature thereof? Seeing none, please have it noted. We are going to go to the minor variances, but before we do that, we have the appointment of Per Lundberg as the Secretary Treasurer, that in accordance with Section 44(8) of the Planning Act, the committee hereby appoints Per Lundberg as the Secretary Treasurer of the Committee of Adjustment. Can I have a mover, please? Anita and Jerry, all in favor? That's carried. Thank you. We will go to the purpose of the meeting. Per.
So the purpose of the meeting tonight, we have 7 applications to hear. The Committee of Adjustment is holding a public hearing in accordance with Section 45 of the Planning Act as amended in order to consider applications for relief from bylaw 2009-021, being the comprehensive zoning bylaw for the Township of Selwyn. The prescribed notices of the public meetings were provided by prepaid first-class mail to all residents within a 60-meter radius of the subject properties. Ministries and agencies were circulated via email. The subject properties were posted with a sign advertising the public hearings. The notice were also available on the township's website. The notice circulation complies with the requirements of the Planning Act. If a person or public body does not make oral submissions at the public hearing or make written submissions to the Committee of Adjustment of the Township of Selwyn before the variance is granted, the person or public body may not be entitled to appeal the decision of the Committee of Adjustment to the Township of Selwyn to the Ontario Land Tribunal. If you wish to be notified of the decision of the Committee of Adjustment of the Township of Selwyn on the proposed minor variances, you must make written request to the Secretary Treasurer of the Committee of Adjustment of the Township of Selwyn by mail, fax, email, or Dropbox. And we'll get to the first application here, which is A39-21. This is for 22 Luddy's Lane. This is for a 127 square meter detached garage. And with reference to the relief being requested, it is for an increase in the maximum height of an accessory structure from 4 meters to 5.1 meters. As you'll note in my report to the committee, I find that it meets the 4 tests of the minor variance. It's desirable and appropriate, is minor, meets the spirit and intent of the official plan and the township zoning bylaw. We've received comments from Kawartha Pine Ridge District School Board that they have no objection. And the Autonomy Conservation Authority has also provided comments that a planting plan as well as sediment and erosion control measures be put in place during construction. And these recommendations have been included in the conditions of approval. And if there's any questions on that one, I'm happy to take those.
Thank you very much, Deputy Clerk. I understand that we have in support of this application, the agent, Bobby Joe Sundstrom.
That is correct.
Thank you. Bobby Joe Sundstrom, do you have anything you wish to add? You may be muted.
He doesn't seem to be in the meeting, so we'll have to move on.
Okay. And are there any people that have signed in for opposition on this application?
We have no one else here for this opposition.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much. All right, I'll bring it to committee. Are there any questions? Seeing none, we'll move on to the next application, A4221, Per.
Thank you. The minor variance application A42-21 is for Darren and Kelly Mahoney and their agent Holly Richards Conley. This is at 948 Highland Road in the Smith Ward. This is for the redevelopment of a waterfront lot with the construction of a 98.79 square meter dwelling. That's 989 square feet, 38.46 square meter attached garage, which is 14 square feet, and a new septic system, as well as a 36.05 or 388 square foot open deck. So the release being requested, there's quite a few of them. So with reference to section 315 of the high watermark setback provisions of Township Sullivan bylaw, we're decreasing the minimum setback from the high water mark from 30 meters to 28.5 meters to a dwelling, and from 30 meters to 23.5 meters to an open deck, and from 30 meters to 16.9 meters to a new septic system. As well, there's a building height increase from 10 meters to 10.35 meters for the dwelling. And there's a decrease in the minimum side yard setback from 3 meters to 1.83 meters for the dwelling and open deck. And finally, actually, second to last, I believe. No, still got a few to go. To decrease the minimum front yard setback from 7.5 meters to 4.881 meters to a porch, and from 7.5 meters to 6.02 meters for the dwelling, and from 7.5 meters to 7.22 meters for the attached garage. And number 5, we're increasing the maximum lot coverage of the accessory buildings and structures from 5.5% to 5.16%. And we're also increasing the maximum lot coverage for all buildings and structures from 20% to 20.42%. And again, for this application, I find that it meets the 4 tests of a minor variance as described in my report. It maintains the general intent of the official plan and the township zoning bylaw, as it's minor in nature, and it's appropriate development and use of the land. Kawartha Pine Ridge District School Board has again commented, have no objection, and the Autonomy Region Conservation Authority has commented and recommended a planting plan, and that permit requirements are required, and these are included as conditions of approval. So if any questions on that one, take those.
Thank you very much. I understand that the agent, Holly Richards Conley's on the line. Do you have anything you wish to add, Holly?
Through you, Madam Chair, no, not at this time. I'm just here to answer any questions that council may have.
All right, thank you very much. And I understand the applicants are on the line, Darren and Kelly Mahoney. Do you have anything you wish to add?
No, we're okay with everything that we see here. Thank you.
Thank you. And I understand that there is a neighbor in support, Stella and Gordon Polkinghorn. Do you have anything you wish to add?
Yes, can you hear me?
I can.
Good. We're in support of this application. However, I feel that there's a major problem that the provision of the bylaw that says we have to be located no closer than the existing building puts a great deal of strain on the design of this building. I don't think that moving the building any closer to Chemong Lake would harm in any way the floodplain, first of all, and secondly, putting a building closer to Chemong Lake would not harm the cleanliness of the lake anywhere nearly as much as locating a septic system close to the lake. This puts pressure on the designer in that they have to keep the building so far away from Chemong Lake that it must be located very close to the road itself. And of course, you have all your applications here for variances for location of setbacks from the road. This again is going to put a lot of pressure on everybody along the street here, because there's certainly not going to be enough parking for the needs of this particular location.
All right.
I believe that the application is in order, but the system is certainly deficient in the fact that they're not able to use all of their yard for the construction of a building.
Thank you. All right, Per, would you like to speak to that?
I'll provide a couple of comments on that. The 30-meter setback is something that was put in place quite a number of years ago, as pre me even working for the county as my previous position there. It is in the official plan, and it is in the township zoning bylaw. It's something that we have to work with. There's a twofold purpose behind the 30-meter setback. I hear your question about water quality in regard to placing septic systems closer than the 30-meter. that's a function of it being a public safety issue that you obviously need to have a septic system. However, the other aspect of it is to the water quality component is just that the 30-meter setback is intended to maintain a shoreline vegetated area for wildlife habitat. So being those two components, we try in the direction of in the official plan that was adopted many years ago on this particular issue to maintain that 30 meters setback as a vegetated buffer area between new development and the lake. And that would be my answer for that question.
Thank you very much, Per. I understand there's another neighbor, Ken and Mary Hutchison, that are on the line in support. Do you have anything you wish to add? You may be muted. Is that a no? All right, I will bring this to committee. Are there any questions? Seeing none, we'll move on to A4321, please.
This is for Drew and Jennifer Dixon at 873.
That's good. Oh.
Madam Chair, if we can just hold a moment, we seem to have lost sound. Test, test.
I did notice too that my red light was on when I started talking, but it was off and it's back on now. Is it working now? It's working? Okay.
All right, thank you very much. So the application for 873 Toomey Place, the applicants Drew and Jennifer Dixon are on the line. Do you have anything you wish to add to Per's report?
We didn't hear the report. So, but I mean, our application is our application, so I would say no.
Okay, thank you. All right then, and there was no one that signed for opposition, correct?
That's correct, Madam Chair. We have no one else here for this application.
All right, thank you. I'll bring it to committee. Are there any questions? Seeing none, we'll move on to A4421, please.
Okay, just making sure the sound's working okay. All right. So A44-21, this is for Stephen Johansson and Robin Upshaw. And the agent is Kawartha Lakes Construction. The property location is 3103 Fire Route 30 in Smith Ward. And this is for the construction of a 222 square meter or 2,390 square foot dwelling, attached open deck and a new septic system. The attached open deck is approximately 390 square feet. The relief being requested is to decrease the minimum setback from the high water mark from 30 meters to 13.3 meters to a dwelling, and from 30 meters to 11.7 meters to a deck, and from 30 meters to 17.7 meters to a septic system. For this one, we got similar comments. Again, Kawartha Pine Ridge District School Board had no objection, and the Autonomy Region Conservation Authority indicated that the floodplain elevation that was on the submitted drawing was incorrect. It was a little bit too high at 244.31 meters, where it should be at 244.01, which again wouldn't cause any great concern for this because the elevation will actually be closer to the water's edge. So we're just asked that this be corrected as a condition of the approval to update the site plan for this particular approval. If there's any other questions in regard to this app. Oh, I should just say, my planning report does outline, I am supportive of this one as well. It meets the intent of the township's zoning bylaw, the official plan. It's minor in nature, and it's appropriate development for the site. So if there's questions on this one, I'll be happy to take those.
Thank you very much. Deputy Clerk, are there any people who have signed in for support or opposition for this application?
We have no one that's registered to speak to this application.
Thank you very much. I'll bring it to committee. Are there any questions? Anita?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just with regards to the archaeological assessment, has that been done? Or will it, obviously, it's one of the requirements within this?
Yeah, so for that one, it is a condition of approval, I believe. Yeah, so it's a condition of approval, point number 6. It's not been undertaken to date, to my awareness.
And Mr. Mitchell?
Thank you very much. Through you to Per. In looking at the chart in the report on page 7, and I'm no doubt reading this incorrectly, the existing encroachment is to 14.2. Normally, we wouldn't get any closer, but it's showing that we're going to 13.3. Am I missing something here?
Yeah, so yeah, it's a matter of I just got to find the point in my report. So yeah, the existing structure is located at 6.9 meters. So we're actually getting further away.
Well, I guess I'm not reading right. The deck is 6.9, but the actual building itself is getting closer.
Okay, so
And just the line above it. So it says high water mark dwelling. Right? Normally it's 30 meters is the requirement. The existing dwelling is at 14.2 and the new dwelling is going to go to 13.3. Have I read that correctly?
might be an error. I'm looking at my report page on township zoning bylaw requirement. Let me just check that for you where we're at here.
I'm on
So
page
high
four-
water
page
mark
4 of the
dwelling.
report, so.
Existing and proposed. Yeah, so yeah, existing 6.9, it's increasing, right?
That's to the deck. It's the line above that I'm inquiring on the dwelling.
Oh, yeah, so yeah, it would still be considered a structure, the deck.
Sorry, can we just take a look at the maybe the survey itself? And I think that kind of displays what's going on with the property. The gray areas are the existing structure, and the hatching, as I understand it, is what is being proposed.
Yeah, I'm just bringing it up here.
Yeah, so you can see that it may be just an instance where That chart, Mr. Mayor, is maybe just not reflecting the accurate number, but it's clear, and we did certainly vet this application as we do all the others, that the end result will be that the new structure or the additions to this structure will be further away from the closest point to the existing structure. And that you could see that it's depicted on the survey, right? So
Yeah, the survey's pretty clear.
Yeah.
I think there's probably an error.
that
in
could be that the
numbers.
chart's not quite right. Yeah.
I'm just looking at that now too. I think there's an error in the table on this particular one.
Okay, yeah.
All right, are there any other questions? Seeing none, we'll move on to A 4521, please.
Okay, so A 45-21. This is for Scott Miller and the agent is Robert Hines. The property location is 495 Causeway View Road. This is for the construction of a 38.2 square meter or 411 square foot attached garage addition to an existing dwelling. And the relief being requested is to decrease the minimum setback from the high water mark from 30 meters to 22 meters to an attached garage, and to increase the maximum lot coverage of all buildings and structures from 20% to 25.2%. In terms of comments on this one, we received correspondence again from Kawartha Pine Ridge District School Board, who advised they have no objection, and the Otonabee Region Conservation Authority advises the planting plan is required and ORCA permits are also required. And I find that as again with this application that it meets the general intent and purpose of the township's official plan and zoning bylaw. It's appropriate for the development of the property, and it's minor in nature for the reliefs being requested. So any questions on this one?
All right, thank you. We will go to the agent who is on the line, Robert Hines. Do you have anything you wish to add? You may be muted.
Sorry, I forgot to unmute myself. Hello.
Hello?
I just wanted to say that the intent here is to remove a couple of existing sheds that are on a lot line and replace them with a proper garage attached to the house. So that was really the whole nature of this particular design and application.
All right, thank you.
You're welcome.
And I understand the applicant, Scott Miller, is also on the line. Do you have anything you wish to add, sir?
Can you hear me all right?
I can.
I was going to say the same thing. It was getting rid of somebody.
Okay, thank you. And I understand that there is someone on the line in opposition, Chad Ganan. Mr. Ganan?
Madam Chair, Mr. Ganan is not in attendance.
All right, thank you. I'll bring it to committee. Any questions? Seeing none, we'll go on to A 4621, please.
Okay, so A 4621. This is for the applicant Carl Redparth, his agent J. Laurie Young. The property location is 21 Darling Drive in the Ennismore Ward. This is for the construction of a 317.4 square meter or 3,416 square foot dwelling, a 62 square meter, 667 square foot attached garage, and an 87.1 or 937 square foot open deck. The reliefs being requested are to decrease the minimum setback from the high water mark from 30 meters to 21.98 meters to a dwelling, and from 30 meters to 18.9 meters to an open deck. And also to decrease the minimum side yard setback from 3 meters to 1.2 meters for the dwelling and open deck. And as amended, and to increase the maximum coverage of accessory buildings and structures from 5% to 5.5%. And again, I find that the application meets the general intent and purpose of the township's official plan, as well as the township zoning bylaw. And it's desirable and appropriate for the use of this particular property, and the variance proposed are minor in nature. Agency comments again, Kawartha Pine Ridge District School Board had no objections, and the Autonomy Region Conservation Authority advises that a planting plan will be required, and this has been included as a condition of approval. So any questions on that one?
Okay, thank you very much. I understand that the agent, J. Laurie Young, is on the line. Is there anything you wish to add to Pear's report?
No, I just want to thank you for hearing our application and point out that we did actually move the structure back 10 feet from the water to improve that situation, but we were limited by existing septic system and the overhead hydro wires.
All right, thank you very much. And the owner, Price Redpath, is also is on the line. Is there anything that you wish to add?
Madam Chair, the applicant is not in attendance. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. And there was no one who registered in opposition?
That is correct.
Thank you. I'll bring it to committee. Are there any questions on this application? Seeing none, we'll move on to A4721, please.
Last one. So this is for the applicant Carson Donahue, whose agent is Holly Richard Connolly. The property location is 206 Fiddler's Green Lane in the Smith Ward. This is for the redevelopment of a waterfront lot with the construction of a 220.4 square meter or 2,372 square foot dwelling, an open deck, an attached garage, and a new septic system. The deck is approximately 257 square feet. And there's actually two decks. There's an L-shaped deck and a smaller deck, and the smaller open deck is about 117.65 square feet. The reliefs being requested are to decrease the minimum setback from the high water mark from 30 meters to 12.3 meters to a dwelling, from 30 meters to 10.2 meters to an open deck, and from 30 meters to 25 meters to a septic system. And to increase the maximum lot coverage of all buildings and structures from 20% to 23%, and to decrease the minimum front yard to center line from 17.5 meters to 13.5 meters. Again, through my report, I described that this one, again, it meets the general intent of the township's general purpose and intent of the township's official plan and zoning bylaw. It's appropriate development for the use of the property, and the applications are minor in nature. Any questions? Oh, actually, I should just again, we have in this particular instance, we have a number of comments from neighbors that are all in support. The neighbors from 196, 198, 202, 208, 212, and 214 Fiddler's Green Lane have all written comments of support for this particular application. Kawartha Pine Ridge District School Board had no objections to this particular application. We did receive comments from the Autonomy Region Conservation Authority, who advised that any lot grading works on this particular site may try to maintain the existing grade of the subject lands as they're within an area of natural and scientific interest for the Bridge North Esker Delta. They also advise that a planting plan and ORCA permits are required. So this particular area of natural and scientific interest is quite extensive. It covers a large area. And in my report, I addressed the issue primarily through the fact that this is already a developed property. It's not new development. And it's this particular property is within a larger, already developed area. So our concerns for the ANSI in this particular case are minimal.
All right.
Those are my comments on that on this application. So I'll be happy to take any questions.
All right, thank you very much. I understand that the agent, Holly Richards Connolly, is on the line. Is there anything you wish to add?
Through you, Madam Chair, to the committee, I just want to let the committee know that the archaeological assessment has already been completed and nothing of cultural significance has been found.
Thank you very much. And the owner, Carson and Heather Donahue, are on the line. Do you have anything you wish to add?
Hello, Council. I just wanted to thank Holly and Per for their work on this, and we look forward to building our home here and in many years moving into Selwyn Township.
Thank you very much. Deputy Clerk, was there anyone that registered in opposition?
We have no one else here for this application, Madam Chair.
Thank you very much. I'll bring it back to committee. Any questions? Anita?
This isn't about the application specifically, but I've never heard of the Bridge North Esker Delta. Can you explain somebody what that is? Because I
So-
have never heard of it.
Yeah, but areas of natural and scientific interest are primarily designated throughout the province to protect various areas for educational regions, for scientific reasons. So this particular area is identified, it's an esker, so it's the soils within the ANSI that are protected. They're unique in the province for one reason or another. So there's policies in place for the provincial planning system that try to protect these areas that have been identified just for future generations, kind of thing. And that's really what they're there for. In my report, again, I reiterate that because this is within a developed area, it's already been developed on, it's already been impacted, that there's no further risk to this particular area of natural and scientific interest, and the risk to it is minimal.
Any other questions? Seeing none, I'm looking for a motion to approve these applications. Donna and Anita, all in favor? That's carried. Thank you. And the minutes of the Committee of Adjustment meeting, July the 13th, 2021. Andy and Jerry, all in favor? That's carried. And a motion to adjourn. Our next meeting is September the 21st. Donna and Anita, all in favor? That's carried. Thank you.
Thank you, everybody. Members of the public, staff, presenters, and members of council, please be advised that the meetings are broadcast and recorded and made available on the internet. Is there any declaration of pecuniary interest in the nature thereof? None noted. We'll then move on to our minutes. We have two sets of minutes. We have the minutes of the regular council meeting of July 13th and of the special council meeting of July 19th. Any questions on those? If not, okay, motion to receive and to Anita, seconded. All those in favor? Carried. Any discussion out of the minutes? Not seeing any, then we'll move immediately to our deputations or public meetings. We'll start with our deputation. Tracy, I think you are online. You are going to be giving us a presentation regarding the visitors pledge, if that's correct.
That's correct. Thank you.
Here you are. Very good.
Wonderful. I'm going to share my screen, so bear with me here as I have to toggle through a few things. So it's easier for me if I shut off my camera. I hope that's okay, Mayor Mitchell.
Go ahead. That's good.
So can everybody see that?
No,
Okay, 1 second.
we'll try to work through it.
Tracy, if you can make sure that you're clicking share screen. When
At
the
the
different
bottom.
windows, when the different windows pop up, hit screen. Perfect. We can see it now.
Got it. Thank you so much. Thank you for your help. Okay. Just get this going. So good evening. Thank you for your patience, Mayor Mitchell and members of council, and thank you for having me here tonight to present the visitor pledge. I'd like to take this opportunity to thank Mayor Mitchell and Deputy Mayor Senes for voting to take the Oda Pitanamon pledge and supporting the pledge at County Council meeting of August 4th. The pledge was launched on July 6th, and this evening I'd like to formally introduce the Oda Pitanamon pledge to all of you. We have been referencing the work that Peterborough and the Kawarthas Economic Development has been doing on a visitor pledge for a few months now. We presented to the Tourism Management Committee, which is comprised of CAOs and EDOs across the county, both First Nation communities, Peterborough Public Health, and the City of Peterborough. And they have been a tremendous asset in assisting with the launch of the pledge. I would like to take this opportunity to formally thank Janice, Angela, Megan, and Leisha for your support. This has helped us to unify our voices with a strong message of pride of place. The Visitor Pledge is a strategic long-term commitment to help ensure this destination is enjoyed by future generations. In 2020, COVID-19 hit the tourism industry very hard. It certainly is one of the most impacted sectors and likely to be the last to recover. In many parts of Ontario, including Peterborough and the Kawarthas, the 2020 tourism season looked a lot different. We experienced the results of over-tourism as droves of domestic visitors came to this destination to escape the cities. Seasonal residents came earlier and stayed longer. While we strategically were preparing for this trend to happen eventually, we certainly didn't think it would happen as fast as it did. While other destinations experienced a decline in visitation, Peterborough and the Kawarthas, as well as the township of Selwyn, saw an increase in the number of visitors wishing to escape to rural destinations. The timing of the launch of the Oda Pitanamon Pledge was aligned with the 2021 tourism season and Ontario's step 2 of reopening the province. In late 2019, we began to explore the concept of a visitor pledge, which essentially is a tool and resource used by destinations wishing to be sustainable. Research also indicated that a visitor pledge has been widely used to curb effects of over-tourism, and many destinations root their visitor pledge in history and culture with a strong message of sustainability, respect, and kindness for the natural assets of the place. The land acknowledgement was the starting point for the research for the visitor pledge, as it is embedded in all that we do in Peterborough and the Kawarthas. From there, the direction of the pledge was driven by PKED's Future Ready strategy, where for the next few years, we ensure that Peterborough and the Kawarthas is poised to become the most sustainable and innovative community and economy in Ontario, and where we committed to strengthening relationships with Hiawatha and Curve Lake First Nations in order to enrich the fabric of our region. Lastly, rooting the Visitor Pledge in Indigenous teachings was a result of the commitment made in the signing of the Friendship Accord in 2019, where Peterborough County, Otonabee South Monaghan Township, Selwyn Township, and PKED, along with Curve Lake First Nation and Hiawatha First Nations, committed to working together with the guiding principles to commit to understanding and respecting each other's values, customs, and beliefs. The meaning Odapitamon is the Ojibwe word for respect and also means to treat someone with great care. It represents the importance of protecting the land on which Peterborough and the Kawarthas is located and honoring the people who call it home. It reflects a universal and evergreen value, respect, by drawing on the Michisagik Anishinaabe and serves to unify everyone for whom the region lives within their hearts. It is pronounced Odapitanamon, and it elevates local Indigenous heritage and aligns with recent commitments to collaboratively recognize traditions and the richness of culture. What is a pledge? A visitor pledge is a commitment made by visitors to make good choices and to respect a destination, and it's an educational tool meant to increase awareness of and appreciation for the tremendous natural and cultural and historical values of a particular place. Why a pledge? As a region that welcomes more than 3 million visitors every year, Peterborough and the Kawarthas understands that when achieving a successful visitor economy, it's essential that a destination foster a strong, comparative place among residents and visitors. After all, if locals love and respect where they live, they're more likely to spread the word and good feelings to inspire others to visit as well. The effects of COVID-19 have fundamentally changed the visitor economy and dramatically shifted consumer behavior. This has provided the opportunity for destinations to hit the reset button. The Odapitanamon Pledge provides Peterborough and the Kawarthas the opportunity to create a renewed sense of togetherness, discovery, and identity among its residents and visitors. The Visitor Pledge will serve as a guiding principle to all that hold a special place in their heart for this region. The adoption of the Odapitanamon Pledge also serves as a bold next step following a history of hard work and investment towards reconciliation and solidarity with the First Nations peoples of Peterborough and the Kawarthas. The pledge will serve to inspire pride in Peterborough and the Kawarthas residents and visitors alike and honor the traditional teachings of Curve Lake First Nation and Hiawatha First Nation and pave the way for sustainability and innovation in tourism within the region. The Odapitanamon Pledge honors both place and people and is an effective way to communicate the importance of being respectful while visiting our region, show kindness to all, and take pride in the region while protecting it and preserving it for future generations. The purpose of the Friendship Accord was to allow each partner to enhance and honor one another's historical, political, economic, social, and cultural relationships. Dignitaries, community members, and young people were invited to witness the signing as representatives from those who signed the Visitor Accord formalized their commitment to work together for the well-being of all of their communities. The Accord marked a moment in time where an existing interest in forward-thinking, cultural collaboration, and community building culminated in a public declaration for progression, partnership, understanding, and respect. The Honorable Elizabeth Dowdeswell was at the signing of the Friendship Accord, and this is a quote from her. Inclusive economic prosperity is often a goal to be achieved, a strategy set in place where the best case scenarios mean that no one is left behind. What is so powerful about the Friendship Accord is that inclusive economic prosperity is not a future ideal, but an active practice, one that is done in the spirit of friendship rather than as a winner-take-all approach. In Peterborough and the Kawarthas, we believe the water connects us all. It gives us everything we need to live authentically, make new discoveries, gather nourishment, strength, and inner peace. Water is the original open road where families make memories and our paddles find purpose, moving us ever forward. In return, it's our responsibility to respect this land of shining waters, to care for it like it cares for us, so that we and future generations can continue to make cultural discoveries, forge new friendships, lose ourselves, and find ourselves in the great outdoors for years to come. The Odapitanamon Pledge is about respect. Respect for the land, respect for each other, and respect for those who will come after us. The Michisaugig Anishinabeg of Curve Lake First Nation and Hiawatha First Nation uphold the traditional teaching, Odapitanamon, to give respect to all creation as a means of living sustainably and in balance with the land, waterways, and each other. So whether you feel at home in Peterborough and the Kawarthas or are visiting for a day, a week, or a few semesters, taking the pledge means you are promising to protect and preserve this incredible place, its heritage and culture, as well as the welcoming spirit of its people. It means you understand what makes Peterborough and the Kawarthas extraordinary, and you are making a commitment to do everything you can to help keep it that way. We invite you to join our community of communities as we make a commitment to be kind and respect all creation. If there's anything that we've learned from 2020, it's the power of unity, of working together for a mutual cause. Respect for the people, the culture, and the natural spaces we depend on for our future generations, for each other, has never been more important. We are asking all that hold Peterborough and the Kawarthas in a special place in their heart to pledge to be a steward of this destination. So while you're traveling in and around Selwyn Township, pledge to be light on the water, or light on the land and wise on the water. Explore your surroundings with an open heart, ask for help when you need it, and be kind to strangers. Before starting your day, gear up, make a game plan, and get wind of the weather. Remember your miigwetches, thank yous, and mercies. With every new season, seek fresh experiences and flavors, trails, and friends. Place safety before sport when pedaling, paddling, parking, or powerboating. Be it bison, baked goods, or crafty brew, buy local where you can. Greet new cultures and traditional teachings with curiosity, kindness, and compassion. And after feeding your soul with authentic adventures, take fond memories with you and leave nothing but footprints behind. So that is the pledge. I'm going to stop sharing my screen for just a moment as I navigate to share with you the video that we've created that is on our landing page. So cross fingers that this works. I'm hoping that everybody will be able to hear this and see this. So stand by for just one moment while I set this up. Can everybody see that?
Yep.
Wonderful. I'm going to hit play now. Can everybody hear that? Is everybody able to see the Otapita Naman pledge on screen now?
Yep.
Great. So this is an example, or this is the actual landing page that we've created from the Cortez.ca website /pledge. This landing page is where we are driving people to go to learn more about the pledge and to take the pledge. So you'll see here that the landing page includes the video that I just played for you. It also talks a little bit about some of the things that I've been sharing with you tonight in the presentation. And as you can see, as I scroll down, you'll see that this is the pledge that people will read. And after they've read the pledge, they have an opportunity. We invite them to be to join our community of communities to take the pledge, and they would type their name in here like so. And they would, if I can type, that would be nice. They would hit determine if they're a visitor or a resident, and then take the pledge button would be what they hit next. From there, what happens is it provides the person that took the pledge with some graphics to share on social media, to share with their friends and family and with their coworkers or whomever they want to, that they've taken the pledge. And you can see here at the bottom of the screen, it says 906 pledges. Sorry, I'm just going to see if that will go away so you can actually see it. We have a live tracker on the landing page. And so that live tracker allows us to keep track of how many pledges are being taken. And we're happy to share with you the data between how many residents and how many visitors are taking the pledge as well. So I'm just going to stop sharing for a second here. And go back to the original presentation. So I'd like to share with you that we actually created a goal to reach 500 pledges before the end of 2021. And I'm so happy to report that we reached 500 pledges within the first week of launch. Couldn't have done that without the support of our municipalities and our county and our businesses and our partners. We do have a new goal now of reaching 1,000 pledges by the end of 2021. And as you could see on our tracker, we are already at 903. So I think we're going to hit that 1,000 mark very soon. So we're very happy to share that with you today. The main call to action is twofold. One is to take the pledge, promising to protect and preserve this incredible place, its heritage and culture, as well as the welcoming spirit of its people. And the other is to share the pledge with others in the interest of driving up the numbers and spreading the awareness. Right now, I'd like to say thank you for your time, miigwech merci, and would entertain any questions that you may have. I'm just going to stop sharing my screen, turn my camera back on, and thank you so very much for your time.
Thank you, Tracy. Questions, Donna?
Yes, through you to Tracy. Thank you so much for the presentation. It's a beautiful sentiment. The photography is amazing. I'm just not certain how people get to take the pledge. Do they just go to a website, or do businesses direct them to the website?
Through you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you for the question. That's a great question. So we have a comprehensive marketing campaign and communications plan in the works. And what we are doing is through social media, website, public relations, we're driving people to the Cortez.ca /pledge. And from there, they will get to the landing page and be able to take the pledge live online.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Anita.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just want to say that video was really, really powerful. The whole presentation was really powerful, and the sentiments behind it. We live in such a beautiful place, especially when you see the diversity. It would be really nice if we get specifically our visitors, and I can understand the challenge in getting people to know about the pledge. I'm thinking about what happened at Burley Falls there last year, and you know, the degradation and the disrespect for that beautiful area. And I know people wanted to get away, but just the way they treated that particular area, as well as the the houses and the private properties. So and maybe in a situation like that, you could put a huge poster or something, or a big sign that outlines some of your points that are in your video. I know that would cost a lot of money, but I think that something like that in our more highly populated or visitor areas would be really good. But thank you. It was a good presentation.
Thank you. And through you, Mr. Chair, we do have plans for a comprehensive visitor campaign starting in 2022, early 2022, where we will focus heavily on the visitor only. Currently, this year, we're focusing on those of us that are here and trying to create a movement with our leaders and our businesses within our community and our residents. But 2022, you will see a comprehensive marketing campaign, and we will regroup with the Tourism Management Committee to share that with them and each township representative as well through the Economic Development Committee roundtable. As well, we are looking at incorporating the visitor pledge into the tourism wayfinding program somehow. So in the fall, I'm looking to bring back the Tourism Wayfinding Committee to adjust the plan to ensure that we can incorporate the pledge in signage around the destination.
Any other questions? Thank you very much for the presentation. Angie, are you on the line?
I am, yes.
This is something that we can amplify on our own social media platforms?
Absolutely. We have been actively promoting it on behalf of PCAD and will continue to do so.
Good. Okay, I'll entertain a motion then. Don? Anita? Okay, all those in favor? Carry. Thank you, Tracy.
Thank you so much, everyone. Have a great night.
Okay, we'll now move on to our public meetings. We have two public meetings. The first one is on a zoning amendment. And Per, could you please state our reason for being here? Oh, we are early. Sorry. Thank you for pointing that out to me. Yes, we should wait. I guess we can go to our first municipal and staff report. So that will be item 4A that we'll do, which is the compensation review for council and staff. Janice, do you want to speak to that?
Yes, thank you. The county earlier this year in June actually issued an RFP for a compensation review for council and staff positions. As part of the process they were going through, they did provide the opportunity to the lower tiers to participate in the RFP. And Selwyn, along with 5 of the other lower tier municipalities, chose to participate, so that we had the option to take advantage of this RFP. 3 proposals were received in response, and all the participating municipalities were included as part of the evaluation team. The highest scoring proponent, Gallagher Benefit Services Group, was also the lowest bid and has been recommended by the evaluation team for completion of the work. The total cost for the review for all of the municipalities involved is $80,600 approximately. And if someone were to participate, our cost would be $9,665. So really thinking through this, this demonstrates excellent value for the work that would be completed. And I think we've really received good value out of doing this as a joint RFP. Certainly, while we have undertaken reviews internally once per term, we have never completed this type of an external third-party review. So again, I think it's an excellent opportunity to look at both council and staff compensation levels to ensure that they're fair and competitive and attractive, and looking to make sure that's in comparison to other similar municipalities across the province. The review would also include a high-level review of our job evaluation methodology and approach to ensure that we are complying with pay equity requirements and the job equity principles that we've tried to consider since for a long time now. The timing of the review would also include the opportunity for council to consider the councillor compensation package in advance of the next election, which would happen in 2022. So if there's any questions, I'd be happy to try and answer them.
Thank you, Janice. Questions, colleagues? Yes, Councillor Heron.
Thank you. Through you to, pardon me, Janice. With regards to this deep review, I guess, deep dive, as you said, we've gone through our own processes, but sometimes it's not about the money. You know, people leave due to a work environment or a manager. I've got a friend of mine who was upper management, and he kept losing junior managers because he kept micromanaging them. So how did these guys gauge these issues, or is that something they'll be looking at as well?
Yeah, so I think really you're talking about more of the culture of the organization. And no, I don't think the culture of the organization would be something that the consultants would be looking to. I guess if you know, if we were experiencing difficulties along that line, it would be something that, you know, we could seek some advice on. But for us in particular, I don't think we are experiencing those types of issues.
Yeah, and I was just using that as an example of, you know, it's not necessarily money that people go down the road. And with this deep dive, again, will they provide their opinion on what they feel we are doing right and wrong as far as evaluations and hiring policies and things?
Yeah, so what they will look at is our pay equity methodology. And as I said, we've always kind of adopted pay equity is a legal requirement, but we've always looked at it as job equity. So whether it's a legal requirement, it's just overall fairness in terms of comparable jobs being paid comparable wages. So they will look at that methodology to make sure that it is up to date and still in compliance with the legislation. You know, we have worked hard at maintaining our system, but we haven't really taken a good look at that system for many years at this point.
Okay, yeah, because I mean, we're going to pay $10,000. I just want to make sure we're getting a little bang for our buck. And then would we have a closed session after that, once the final report comes back on our end, to discuss?
No, the report would come back into a public meeting. It wouldn't be a privileged report. If there was, in order to be in closed session, we would have to have some specific information regarding individuals. They wouldn't be looking at it on an individual basis. They'd be looking at the jobs and the evaluation methodology and comparison of jobs with other comparable municipalities.
Thank you.
Yeah, just to follow up on what Jerry was saying, the authority level or the responsibility that a particular position has would be a component of what the consultant would be evaluating, correct?
Yeah, so that would be part of the evaluation process under the pay equity plan.
Right. So the authority level or the authority of for their scope of action is part of what's reviewed.
That's part of what's evaluated from the job description. Yes.
Right. Okay. Thank you. So we do have a motion. Oh, okay. The one that's in the report. Do we have a seconder for that? That is Donna. All those in favor? That is carried. And we are at 6:29. So by the time we get all set up, it'll be 6:30. So we'll go back to our OP zoning amendment public meeting. And Pear, if you could give us the reason why we are conducting this meeting.
Thank you, Your Worship. So the Township of Selwyn is holding a public meeting to consider an application to amend the zoning bylaw for the Township of Selwyn in accordance with Section 34 of the Planning Act. The prescribed notice of public meeting was provided by prepaid first-class mail to all residents within 120-meter radius of the property subject to the application, as well as by way of sign posted being posted on the property. The notice was provided by email and fax to the in this case, just email to the prescribed ministries and agencies. The notice is also available on the township's website. If a person or a public body does not make oral submissions at the public meeting or make written submission to the Township of Selwyn before the bylaw is passed, the person or public body is not entitled to appeal the decision of the council of the Township to the Ontario Land Tribunal, nor can a person or public body be added as a party to the hearing of an appeal before the Ontario Land Tribunal, unless in the opinion of the tribunal, there are reasonable grounds to do so. So this particular zoning amendment is, the applicant is Heather Ruth Pogue. This is for 2018 12th line. This is a zoning amendment that is condition of consent to severance application B 2821 with the County of Peterborough. The severed parcel is going to be rezoned from rural residential is going to be rezoned to rural exception 586 to recognize certain deficiencies with regard to the applicable zoning regulations for the existing buildings on the severed parcel, and the retained parcel will be zoned agricultural exception 585 to prohibit future residential dwellings. This application, the consent application, is a surplus farm is a resident surplus to a farm operation as a result of farm consolidation. The Pogues are the landowners to the west of this property as well, so they'll be holding on to the retained remnant parcel of farmland, and then selling off the residents and the immediate land around the existing residents. Through my report, you'll note that I find that the application is consistent with the growth plan for the Greater Golden Horseshoe. It's consistent with the provincial policy statement, conforms to the county and township official plans. And we have agency comments from Hydro One, Kawartha Pine Ridge District School Board, Autonomy Conservation, the County of Peterborough Public Works, and Enbridge. With no comments of no objection. So if there's any questions on this particular application, I'd be happy to take those.
Thank you very much. First, I'm going to go to the audience and ask if there is anybody who wants to speak in favor of this. Tanya?
We have no one here registered to speak in favor or in opposition.
Okay, so it's redundant for me to ask if there's anybody opposed because there's nobody in the audience for either. I'll turn it over to council for questions. Thank you. And Jerry will second it. Any further discussion? All in favor? Carried. Okay. We have a second public meeting. I believe, Rob, you're going to be doing the second public meeting.
That's correct, Mr. Chair.
And this is a draft zoning bylaw amendment and Schedule A amendment regarding our cannabis regulations. So over to you, Robert.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Yeah, so just for the record, we are convening a public meeting to consider the zoning bylaw amendment to regulate the cultivation and production of cannabis in the township. So notice to the agencies was provided as detailed by Per in his review. Notice to the public was provided by way of advertisement in a local newspaper because it is a general amendment. And the notice was also posted on our website. In addition, residents who had shown an interest in the subject were given notice by way of a direct email. So just for council's edification, we're not asking council to pass the draft zoning bylaw amendment. This evening's meeting is a formal opportunity for council and staff to hear from the public. Agency and public comments received prior to the report submission deadline have been amended to the report. We heard from the Kawartha Pine Ridge District School Board and Peterborough Public Health. Neither agency had any concerns with the proposed amendment. In addition, we received input from Tracy Bell, who a local resident who is in favor of rigorous regulations to account for her concerns for the environment and possible criminal activity. As council is aware, the township has been supported in our efforts to draft new cannabis regulations by Meridian Planning. Alison Loma from Meridian, who was instrumental in conducting the research and background report in support of the regulations, is with us virtually this evening. She is available to answer any questions that council or the public might have. I've provided council with a report which provides a bit of a summary of how we've gotten to where we are today. In addition, it summarizes the intent of the proposed amendment. I'll go over that briefly, Mr. Chair. So essentially, the proposed zoning bylaw amendment will impact the following sections in our zoning bylaw: the definitions section, the general provisions section, the policies related to the agricultural zone, and the policies in our rural zone. So in the definitions, we've refined the cannabis cultivation indoor and cannabis cultivation outdoor definition. And these references now include the federal references to the Cannabis Act and licensing provisions to ensure consistency in the scope of the definition. We've added agricultural use and agricultural produce warehouse to the list of definitions as well. So these clarify the fact that the definitions are subject to specific cannabis cultivation and production provided for by the amendment. I just note that, for example, a warehouse for the storage and distribution of cannabis would not be defined as an agricultural produce warehouse, and instead would be subject to the provisions of the amending bylaw. We would also add air treatment control and adverse effects and sensitive land use to the list of definitions in our bylaw. The general provisions section in the bylaw would be amended to add to very specific regulations applying to the cannabis use. They're outlined in the report, Mr. Chair. I won't go into those in a great deal of detail, but essentially our current provisions, I guess the biggest impact would be on the setback provisions in the bylaw. The current provisions would seek a setback for the outdoor cultivation of cannabis of 50 meters to any lot line, and doesn't currently speak to an increased distance to a sensitive land use. And so the biggest impact is in this particular iteration of the bylaw would add a minimum distance separation of 300 meters to any sensitive land use. That's defined as a residence, a community facility, things of that nature. And so that of course, as council would be aware, came out of our experience with a pending application in a rural area that's adjacent to an existing draft plan of subdivision, and the current provisions were seen to be lacking as it relates to the impact on a sensitive land use. There's also provisions in the general provisions category that would apply to indoor cannabis uses. In this context, Mr. Chair, indoor cannabis is not permitted as a right in any zone in the township. The official plan does recognize that this activity can take place in a rural and agricultural zone or designation, but that a zoning bylaw amendment would be required, and that site plan approval would also be required. And it's through that process that we'll establish what the correct setback provisions will be to a specific application. In addition to that, the regulations as they relate to agricultural zone and rural zone have also been amended to reflect some changes to reflect what we're proposing in the earlier cited regulations. Yeah, so I think in terms of input to date, I think I've cited, I think at this point, Mr. Chair, it would be the opportunity for anybody who might want to provide additional input to provide it. And I can also answer any questions that council might have.
Okay, we'll go first to the public. Tanya, is there anybody registered to speak on this item?
We have no one registered to speak.
Anybody here in the audience? We'll go to council, but just before we do that, I just want to ask a clarifying question. The proposal that's in your report, and the amendment that's attached, is roughly the same or is the same as what we had discussed at the previous meeting of council, just coming forward for this public meeting?
That's correct. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Donna.
Thank you, through you. I'm not sure if I asked this question to you, Rob, or is Allison on the line from Meridian?
I am here. I'm available. Yes.
Okay, so I'm looking at the bylaw and section 3.49.1 item K. I guess I didn't pick up on this, if it's exactly the same as the last time, but I was under the understanding that we were having all field crops, 300 meters, and I thought it was from the lot line. And this indicates to the nearest exterior wall of a dwelling. So in other words, in my mind, that's giving them some leeway. Wouldn't necessarily be 300 meters from the actual crop. And I think I actually stated that I would like to see that the crop be the maximum defensible distance from any sensitive area, particularly residences, because we've had a lot of problems with an earlier field growing operation. So I had a little bit of concern about that because it doesn't seem to me it would necessarily be 300 meters away, depending on how close the nearest resident is or part of their house.
Yeah, well, I can tackle that, and Allison can add anything that she might think is appropriate. So, yeah, so if you can picture that obviously the majority of any outdoor cannabis operation is going to be in a rural area, and it could be, and not in a lot of circumstances, the neighboring residents may also be on a farm parcel. And the thought was that in that particular context where you have 100 acres next to 100 acres, the adjacent property or the house on the adjacent property may be, 300 or 400 meters away from the lot line, and it would be punitive to measure from the lot line as opposed to the dwelling, because it's where, it's the dwelling and the residents in the dwelling that are going to be impacted by any odor generated from the crop. And if it happened that an adjacent dwelling was situated on a property that had been severed from a neighboring farm, then the dwelling itself would be fairly close to the lot line. And so the 300 meters is, there would be a limited impact on the actual 300 meters. If the dwelling is 4 or 5 meters from the lot line, we would gain, or the crop would lose an additional 4 or 5. So the idea is we tried to find some way of not being punitive in a situation where there's a dwelling located on a large lot. So, and I actually spoke to Per about that this particular issue, and what he noted was that I think in Norwood, or one of the area municipalities, they made a distinction and created a setback from a lot line if the lot was zoned residential, rural residential. So that's the smaller lot that's been severed from a neighboring farm, and applied to 300 meters from a dwelling if that dwelling is on a farm parcel. Right. So that may be the balance. Right? We could maybe create some language that says, if your house is on a residential sized lot, right, or zoned lot, then we'll measure from the lot line. So in the context of Cork line property, those properties we'd measure from the lot line because they're smaller residentially zoned properties. But the adjacent property, which is agriculture or rural, where the house may be 100 or 200 meters from the lot line, we would measure from the house. That maybe, I think, would get you to where I think you want to be, which is having additional regard for properties that are small, or there's a clump, or there's a higher density of development.
Okay, I tried to follow that. I think I'd like to see it in writing. So I wonder, could you put that in writing for us?
Yep.
We're not going to actually pass it tonight, so that would be a consideration, because, and I also envision like a whole row of houses that could abut a field that would be planted in cannabis, and there might be one that is a lot closer to the field than others. So then that measurement is far less. if I'm reading this correctly. So let's say that we have a whole street of houses and one is very close to the lot line part of the house. So then the 300 meters would start from there and go 300 meters. Oh, no, I guess that house would be the closest. The others would be farther away. It's a little confusing.
Yeah, no, that's fair. Yeah, so I think that, I guess to your point, we are not passing it this evening. We can certainly, if council sees fit, we can certainly make that adjustment where we would make a distinction between rural and rural residential zones and apply a slightly different setback regime based on the zone. And we'd accomplish, I think, what you're hoping to accomplish.
Okay, that sounds good. Thank you.
Anita?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So the reason we're putting this bylaw together is because of the issue in Ennismore. So if somebody were to come and apply for like a permit or whatever under the existing bylaw, they'd go by the rules of the existing bylaw, or would you just tell them, well, we're working on a new modified bylaw?
So I would absolutely tell them that, we have, zone provisions that apply today, but that we're working on a new set of regulations that will apply shortly. Right? And, I noted in my report that the municipality is not in a position to apply our rules retroactively. But there's quite a process between coming to me and letting me know or asking me questions about whether or not, a particular land use is permitted and actually applying the land use, right? So the prohibition again is against prohibiting land uses that are currently in place, right? So that's where I think we, I don't think we're in any jeopardy of this month of or several weeks of deliberation between, actually passing the bylaw, where we're going to have somebody kind of sneak in and actually plant a field, right? They really can't do that because there's a whole licensing regime that's in place. And before they could get their license, they'd have to actually make improvements to the property, as we've learned. They have to put the security measures in place. They have to, build the fencing, and they have to build the video and other security measures in place before they can even make applications. So the land use isn't likely to occur in a short period, put us in jeopardy.
Thank you, Anita. Jerry, did you?
Thank you. Through you to Rob, this might be the most ridiculous make work project I think I've ever come up with, or it might be possible. I don't know. The chances of an overlay. How hard are they to create?
A which?
An overlay. So we've got a floodplain overlay. We've got a archaeological sort of overlay, the Curve Lake's got. What about an overlay for pot? Is that a arduous task?
It would be, yeah. I think it would be fairly onerous.
That way we could all see. I know Donna's extremely concerned over there, but if we, now you'd say, oh, geez, look at that. That pigeonholes everybody. Because I think I think from what I'm gathering from what I hear from my council mates here, nobody really is into this at this point. So, do we tweak it a little bit based on, what we're seeing with an overlay? But if it's going to be, we're 2 months down the road, just one guy working 7/24 to do it.
Yeah. Yeah. So I think at one point I did create a scenario. I just chose, a rural lot in Smith, which was, a typical rural lot, which had residences in the nearby. And I applied the setback regime to it. And I think I may have done it for Don. I could do that for council as well. Just, gives you a visual depiction of what, the implications of the new regulations, right? On a 100-acre parcel, a reasonably typical 100-acre parcel. And you see just kind of impact that it does have on the amount of arable land that's left, right? After we apply the setback regime.
Yes, because Donna and I, sorry, through you to Rob, Donna and I had a conversation earlier this week, and using Google Maps, we just kind of did a radii and figured all this stuff out. I mean, it really knocks it down as far as the usable land at that point, and it might not even make it worthwhile to grow just a little section. So I think the bylaw certainly achieves what I think we've all been trying to do here.
Thank you, Jerry. Yes, go ahead.
Thank you, through you. The change that that you mentioned as a result of Donna's question, is there any agricultural lots that we have with no houses on them?
Yeah, there are some vacant agricultural parcels. Yeah.
Okay, so in a case like that, that would abut where a possible cannabis growth operation would go in, where would you measure to? The lot line?
Yeah, so we would apply the 50-meter setback, which is an absolute minimum, right? So everywhere there's a 50-meter setback. And where there's a sensitive land use, we would apply the greater setback.
Right.
So if there wasn't a house in nearby, then the crop could be as close as 50 meters. Yeah. Yeah,
To the
so-
lot line?
To the lot
Yeah,
line. yeah.
okay.
So I think Allison maybe wanted to provide some input as well.
Allison, go ahead.
Yeah, I just, I wanted to add to Rob's answer, which was a very good answer, but also just to indicate that we do also have a companion regulation that applies to those outdoor cannabis cultivation uses. So as we started talking about, there is that 50-meter setback from the lot line on the lot that has the cannabis field. So you have your 300-meter setback that's being measured from the field or the nearest building, but you also have that 50 meters there that provides some degree of basically reassurance or in working conjunction together with those setbacks, so that those two are intended to work together.
And just to clarify, because I think we've got it here. So under the provision that's here right now in front of us, cannabis cannot be grown within 300 meters, 450 feet of a residence, correct? That's an absolute.
That's correct. Yeah.
That's correct. Yes.
With Donna's suggestion, it could be that somebody may be set back 316 meters if their house was 16 meters setback from the lot line.
Yeah. So if we adopt the regime that we would measure from a lot line as opposed to dwelling in a residential zone, then you're right. Yeah.
Yeah, so it's 300 is the minimum, and it could be a little bit more if we adopt what Donna's suggesting in a residential area. And that would be the difference between where the house sits on the lot and the lot line.
That's correct.
Okay.
Yes.
So it'll always be at least 300 meters.
Yes.
Donna?
Yes, through you to Allison. So Allison, are you saying that any operation that is adjacent to residences, which are sensitive use, will be 350?
So those would be measured from the exterior wall of the dwelling to the closest building on the cannabis lot, if I can call it that, the exterior wall of that, or the crop line, whichever would be closest. So that would be the measurement for the 300 meters. Certainly we can adjust that in the bylaw to say within a rural residential zone, we take that measurement from the lot line in that specific scenario.
But
Yeah,
I'm not really understanding what you said a few minutes ago, because you said the 50 meters came into play as well, in addition to the 300. I thought you said that.
No,
No,
I think,
it's-
Donna, what she was referring to is in the scenario where you have an adjacent empty field where
Okay,
there isn't a house, you're gonna have it 50-meter setback there, even though there's nothing there for 300 meters, you're gonna get a 50-meter setback, even though it's abutting a piece of property that has no sensitive use, and maybe not a house for 300 or 500, 600 meters. I think that's what you're.
Yes, yes, correct.
okay, thank you.
Jerry.
Through you, what's the drop dead date that people can make comment before that comes back to us on September 7th, Rob?
Yeah. So really the intent is that this is the public meeting. This is the opportunity for people to provide their input, for council to hear it, so that, we could debate whether or not we want to make changes, right? I mean, we'll collect any information that comes from this point to the 7th, right? And I could summarize whatever might come in the meantime, but really this is their opportunity.
Thank you.
Okay, there not being any further questions, I think we need a motion to receive only, right? To receive the report, and that you will be returning at our first meeting in September.
September 7th.
Pardon?
September 7th.
September 7th with a proposed bylaw amendment. Moved. Okay, Nita, seconded by Donna. All those in favor, carried. Okay, colleagues. It is 3 minutes to 7. Do you want to?
Just, could I say one more thing?
Sure.
Rob, could you give us the summary of that scenario, the Norwood scenario before the 7th of September? Email it to us.
Yeah, I can do something like that.
Okay.
Yep.
Thanks.
Everybody good? Okay. Pardon? Okay, just wonderful. Motor on then. So question period. Madam Clerk, anybody registered for a question?
There were no questions.
Sir, would you like to ask a question? Okay. We'll move on then back to staff and municipal reports. I believe we were with Lane and his budget timetable.
Yes, to you, Mr. Chair. The report is fairly self-explanatory and very similar to what council's seen other years. Really just a housekeeping report, but it pulls everything together in one spot. The only change that I note there is on the actual special council meeting in January of 2022 is to push that back 1 week. It really just will provide for a better year-end product. It doesn't really do much in terms of the budget itself, but because the year-end is on those sheets the council receives, it allows us to receive some other vendor invoices, get some other accruals in place, and just ensure that our year-end analysis is that much better when it comes to council. If council has any questions, I could answer them.
Thank you, Lane. Any questions? Yes, Sherry?
Do we know when the possible Roma convention is going to be next year? You had mentioned they're trying to do it live. No. Yeah. So do you know, Andy, when the dates are? Because I know it's in January and I just wonder if it conflicts.
I don't. I can look it up, but I don't know. But I think to the point, we don't want to conflict with Roma.
Yeah. Is it usually?
Just looking it up online, it looks like it will be January 23rd to 25th.
Okay. And whether or not that's live or in person is going to depend on the public health situation as we move forward. Okay. So you're going to move it? Okay.
Move the recommendation.
Okay. And Anita, second? Okay. All those in favor? Carry. Okay, thank you very much, Lane. We'll go on to our third report for direction. And I think, Rob, we're back to you. This is improvements to a heritage designated structure.
Well, thank you, Mr. Chair. So the council's received a letter and a maintenance plan from Ed Palechny and Jackie Wallet, looking for permission to alter and repair their heritage designated property at 59 Clementi Street. I note in my report that because the structure is heritage designated, it is subject to a specific requirement that to seek approval from council. And the Heritage Act does require that where a heritage committee is in place, that council seek the input from its heritage committee before making a decision on whether or not to allow for the proposed improvements. So essentially, that's the summary of the request in the recommendation in the report is that that council advise the landowner that they have received their complete application for improvements to their property, and that the application be forwarded to the Heritage Committee to seek their opinion as it relates to the proposed alterations in accordance with Section 33 of the Heritage Act. I know that the committee is anxious to support the applicant and will attend the property or re-attend the property to ensure that the requirements of the legislation are being met, and then of course would provide council with their recommendation in time for their next meeting on the 7th of September.
Thank you, Rob. Questions? Eric?
Thank you. Through you to Rob, just a couple. Based on the pictures sorry, I better keep my glasses on here. Based on the pictures we've seen that were attached with this, it certainly looks like it's a complete disrepair. Some of the spots. Is there some kind of process or something out there to prevent other homes from getting to this state where, stuff sort of falling apart? Like, do we do is it in our mandate to do a yearly inspection on all heritage designated properties? Or, I mean, some of this stuff, to be blunt, is I don't feel safe. But.
Sure. Yeah. Through you, Mr. Chair. So we do have a tax incentive program that most of the privately owned property owners take advantage of, and that system does have an inspection component to it. And in this particular context, the committee, or myself and one of the other committee members, did attend this property, and collectively we actually visited all of the properties of those who have taken advantage of the tax incentive. So we have the ability, of course, to do inspections. We haven't done them on an annual basis. We'll do them periodically. Most of these heritage designated properties are fairly prominent, so we could certainly notice if there's deterioration that's untoward or getting to a point where it's problematic. And I note in this case that when we did attend in 2018, that the homeowners were planning on making improvements to the structure, and they did list items that they wanted to tackle. And these are the amendments the improvements that are proposed in this most recent application were listed on that particular renovation plan. So they're moving forward with what they had anticipated having to do.
Thank you. Because since Bridge Street's happened, I know we've got to make sure our I's are dotted and our T's are crossed here, because everybody knows how important heritage buildings are. So I just want to make sure that we're not cutting corners here to try and have somebody jump the queue. I just want to make sure that we're doing everything proper. That way we don't get any blowback at all. So I just basically making sure she's buttoned right up.
Yeah, I can assure you that the process that we've asked these landowners to follow is the process we've asked other heritage landowners to follow who are in a similar position. Right? So we've asked them to make application to council, to seek council's approval, and of course council needs to solicit its committee's input, and then you'll be provided with a clear guidance from the committee, and then you'll be asked to make a decision, right, on whether or not it's appropriate to move forward.
Okay, Anita.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you, Rob, for your report. We've had a lot of emails back and forth with regards to this particular issue. I know with your letter that you sent 3 years ago, you outlined very, very clearly what the requirements were with regards to any work that needed to be done or should be done on the house. And so, I mean, it's been 3 years that this applicant has known about what the rules are. And I appreciate what Jerry said about jumping the queue. We obviously the amount of degradation on the structure, it's not something that just happened overnight. Obviously, it's been going downhill, and I'm not a carpenter or a contractor, but even I know that when houses or structures start looking like that, it has been something that's been ongoing. And with regards to our Heritage Committee, I'm assuming that we're going to have probably a Zoom meeting before our next council meeting. And this is the proper process that has to be done according to legislation. And, if he's got issues right now with squirrels and mice, I know there's quite a few reputable pest control businesses in the area that could probably deal with at least some of the rodent infestation. And I think it looked like he had put up some temporary screening, maybe to keep some of the other rodent, and he's allowed to do that.
Yep. So so clearly we wouldn't take issue with somebody wanting to, prevent further damage, from rodents. Yeah, that's not an issue. It's anything that's permanent and and is a change to an aspect of the building that is or heritage, significant from a heritage value perspective.
And I think you've also made it really clear to this person that with regards to the type of material that they're to use, it's very specific because of the fact that it's a heritage structure. So, but I just want to thank you. It was a good report. And like I said, I'm assuming we're going to have a Zoom Heritage Committee meeting before. So Mr. Chair out there, if you're listening.
Okay, any other comments? Can we have a motion to, okay, Anita, seconded by Donna? All those in favor? Carried. Okay, colleagues, that takes us to our consent agenda. Is there any items that people would like pulled? Donna?
Yes, I just wanted to talk about correspondence number 21, A, B, C, D, E, and F. I'll just say, I just want to talk about it.
Okay. 21. Anita?
Thank you. Under municipal officers and staff reports 5C with regards to the Water Street reconstruction. And then under correspondence 6A 23 under consent correspondence.
So 23, that's the
Funding-
cemeteries one?
The cemeteries one.
Yeah, okay.
And also the municipal officer and staff reports also deals with cemetery.
Oh, right. Okay, which is 5C, right. Okay. And I'm going to ask for 5A. I wanted to also comment on 5C, but I suspect we may have the same comment. I'm just going to comment on 6.3, and I have a question on 6.10. So we'll try to do these in order. So the first one is 5A, and I'll just speak to that. That's Janet. This is to Janice. That's the extension of the agreement on Peterborough Utilities, and you're recommending that we would do it for 2 years, and then we have a 1-year cancellation provision. So it's effectively that we're in it for another 3 years.
No, it would go to the end of 2023. But if we were to determine that we were going to take another option, or if the city gets through their review of water and wastewater consolidation options, then we would have a 1-year termination provision within that time period.
So basically, we have to make up our minds by the end of 2022 if we want to do anything different.
By the end of 2020, yes.
Yeah, so we've got about 16 months to figure out what we want to do. And this comes out of that report that we had received. Okay, so it's about 16 months we have to figure out.
Yes, and having said that, if the city were to make a decision in advance earlier than that, we may need to make our decision in advance if PUG is actually not an option moving forward.
Right. Okay, thank you. 5C, Anita.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. It's just with regards to the Water Street reconstruction project and how there's a recommendation to proceed with further archaeological study based on the fact that there may be unmarked burials at the Christchurch Cemetery and at possibly at Hendren's Funeral Home. I'm trying to remember the gentleman's name, probably about 10 years ago. I got waxed poetic about the fact that he thought that there were, possibly unmarked graves or burials or whatever under the parking lot at Hendren's. Is that sort of what triggered this, or the fact that they thought maybe there really is some unmarked burials there? I don't know who can answer that.
Thank you. I can take that question, Anita. So the archaeological assessment is required simply because, or as a function of the fact that there is a cemetery adjacent to the work. So we always knew that we were going to have to do the archaeological assessment. The original property where Christchurch Museum is located and where currently where Hendren's Funeral Home is located, that was one parcel. At some point in time, the properties were separated, and then the Hendren's property was developed. So because the location of the current cemetery and Christchurch, there are headstones at the cemetery. There are about 46, I believe. There is record of probably over 100 burials for the cemetery. So because of the fact that we don't have a headstone for every burial that's recorded, we really don't know if there are other burials on the property. So as a result of that, that requires some additional stage 2 assessment being done. Because the Hendren's property was originally part of the Christchurch property, we would just want to make sure that the road allowance beside Hendren's is assessed as well. So there's no notion that there are burials under the parking lot at Hendren's. I just want to be clear about that. But because the property was originally part of Christchurch, and we are doing work on the road adjacent to it, the stage 2 and 1 assessment needs to be done in that area. I hope that explains that for members of council.
Thank you very much. Yes, it does.
And my question, and I guess just observation, then it will be next year before any kind of work can actually begin, correct?
That is what is anticipated, correct?
Right. Okay, thank you. I just wanted to comment on item 6.3 very briefly, and to let council know that I did have an opportunity to attend the day of mourning where I made comments that were consistent with the comments that I had made at the council meeting shortly after the discovery. So just wanted to let you know that I participated. We are then into item 10 on the correspondence. I guess that's mine. And this is to you, Rob. With the replacement of the Ontario Land Tribunal, is there any practical difference in what we're going to see? Okay, thank you. And then we're on to item number 21 for Donna, capital gains.
Yes, thank you. We talked about this before, and we did receive a letter from Minister Monsef's office to say that the federal government did not intend to put capital gains tax on primary residences. But here now we have 6 more municipalities.
Donna, I'm gonna intervene for a second. I did not realize you're gonna raise this issue. The correspondence that you just referenced, I declared a conflict on, and so I'm gonna leave the room and turn the chair over to Sherry.
Madam Chair, do I have to repeat it from the beginning? Okay. Number 21 is dealing with 6 other municipalities supporting a resolution, sending communication to the federal government saying that they oppose capital gains tax on primary residences. And we were going to support that notion several meetings ago. And then we received a letter from Minister Monsef's office saying that the federal government had no intention of following that process. So it still seems to be going on. So, and I don't know the process. If we could send a letter to AMO to investigate this and make it known to the municipalities that this isn't occurring, because it concerns me that we still have municipalities supporting this. And we were told that this was not happening. So I just wonder if we could alert AMO to it. I don't know if that's a procedure that we can do. I know we've never done it before, but so I'm just looking for some assistance or direction.
Thanks, Donna. Angie, can you speak to this, please?
Certainly, I don't think it would be an issue if council wants to pass a motion to ask AMO to investigate this and provide good information to member municipalities.
Okay, I'd
right.
like to make that motion then.
All right, Donna's making a motion, seconded by Jerry.
Yeah,
All in-
if I could just make comment if I could.
Yes?
Yeah, because, you know, one letter back to here does not dictate what, you know, the whole cabinet's gonna do. So I don't trust no one. Too slippery for me.
All right, so seconded by Jerry, all in favor? That's carried, thank you. And if we can bring the chair back in.
Okay, so that was item number 21. So item number 23, who wanted? Okay.
This is with regards to Township of Adelaide Metcalf, supportive resolution for abandoned cemeteries. This is the council, that council support the Township of Rideau Lakes motion to urge the government of Ontario to provide funding sources for municipalities for the ongoing maintenance and preservation repair of abandoned cemeteries in their care. And I think the only cemetery that we have that's under, oh, wow, no, maybe 2. So we have Johnson Bickle. Would that be considered an abandoned cemetery, even though the township basically looks after it now? And also the one at Young's Point, beside the Young's Point Catholic Church. And I don't know of any other
Yeah,
cemeteries.
so I'm not
that are-
sure how they define abandoned, but I think, you know, once, you know, if it's not being maintained, I think they, you know, the cemeteries come to the municipality to look after. And if they're being maintained, like the one in Young's Point, then it's being maintained by the church in that context. Right? Yeah. So I'm not sure how they define abandoned, to be honest with you.
So I don't know if it's something that our heritage committee should be looking into, or really, I'm just, like I said, off the top of my head, I'm just thinking of like the 2 cemeteries that would seem to be not overly busy. If I can use that word.
But we can certainly forward the correspondence to them and for their information. And yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, Donna?
I believe that there's an abandoned cemetery on Skyline Road as well. I know there is an old cemetery there, and I don't think anybody tends to it. I know there are some headstones there because when I was a kid, those headstones used to be markers that if you positioned your boat out into the lake, it was good fishing. So there you go. They're there.
Okay, those are all of the items that we had asked to be pulled, so I assume that you disposed of the one item. So then we have a motion for the remainder of the items. Jerry, seconded by Anita. All those in favor, carry. Okay, colleagues, there are no petitions. We will go on to portfolio updates. And that will begin with Donna.
Okay, thank you very much. I'll begin with library activity. They've been making very good progress at the renewed classic site in the Lakefield Library building to turn that into a makerspace for children in programming as well as members of the public. I'm not certain, we haven't had a meeting this summer, so I'm not exactly certain when they're hoping to have that open, but they are making good progress. And the library is also having an online silent auction. And I believe that it's starting sometime in September. And if anybody did want to make a donation, I think they would still accept a donation. And I'll let you know when the bidding actually takes place, or you could check the library website. I'm sure that they would tell you that. But by the September 7th meeting, I think I should know the answer to that. You don't know that, do you, Andy? No. And the Police Services Board met on July the 26th. Most of the conversation centered around speeding. Surprise, surprise. One positive thing that we learned was that Rick is considering changing the speed limit on Clonakilty. So you'd be happy to hear that, Mr. Mayor. You may already know that. Going after you turn off Gifford, heading up the hill past Purdue, or no, not Purdue, past, doesn't matter. It's a big hill and it goes up to Nurse Avenue. And then shortly after that, it's the city of Kawartha Lakes and their speed limit changes to a lower speed. So he is considering lowering that speed along that stretch of road to match the city of Kawartha Lakes speed. He was going to take it to the Police Services Board the last meeting, but somehow it got misplaced, so we didn't have an opportunity to discuss it. The link stats for the first week of August, they are down, but August 2nd was a holiday, so there were no bus runs, so that would impact the statistics. Route 31, the Curve Lakefield route had 55 riders. But Route 31, the Ennismore Bridge North, was down to 5 during that period. So that's pretty low. And fire, I was speaking with the chief and he reports that the new burn bylaw has not created issues. He hears firework complaints regularly, as we do. But there were no plans as of last week to change anything regarding fireworks. And I think everybody probably knows by now that we did have a large fire in Smith a few weeks ago, resulting in the destruction of a business, at least 20 years in our municipality, Rhoda Spa. So that was a sad loss. And as of the other day, the Office of the Fire Marshal hadn't reported anything related to the cause of that fire.
Thank you, Donna. Sherry?
Thank you, through you. There's a new business at 595 Robinson Road beside Jesse's called Phoenix Metalworks. They make metal signs, plaques, and fire rings and pits. And one of our local businesses got a notice that they've cut back their hours because they're having trouble finding employees. And they didn't want to do this, but they're worried about burning out their existing employees. Another closed temporarily because of a lack of getting staff to look after it while this person's on medical leave. And it's a common complaint about among our business owners, the lack of workers out there. CERB or EI or whatever it's called that is being offered is cited as the reason. People are content to sit at home and collect rather than get a job. It's becoming a serious problem. And that's my report.
Thank you. Jerry.
Thank you through you. The Public Works, they're just getting the, they're still doing the ditching and getting the roads ready for chipping because the season's starting to wind down for that. As far as the Park and Rec, we're able to take some bookings. There are some, I was speaking to Tiffany today. Tiffany is starting to get some bookings for some of our halls. The sports are going well right now. So things are starting to go. Tiffany doesn't foresee a problem with hockey this year based on the surface area, that we should be able to get the numbers in there. But everything else is status quo right now.
Thank you. Anita?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So a lot of this stuff I just found online, but so the Lakefield Rage will host the 2021 Ontario Senior C Lacrosse Championships on August 21 and 22 at our very own Lakefield Smith Community Center. So that's pretty exciting to have a lacrosse Senior C lacrosse tournament right here in our municipality. Cuddles for Cancer is now doing their work, their fleece blankets at Lakefield Legion Branch 77, which is good because they have, to date, they've made 8,500 cuddle blankets that have been made and distributed in more than 50 countries. So it's good that they're able to kind of get back up and running, and I guess they do have volunteers. Lakefield Golden Years Club is now open again at 50% capacity as of August 2021. They're looking to, if there are people willing to assist to host and run classes such as arts and crafts, Scrabble, exercise, dance, or special events such as bus trip outings, etc., please do get in touch with organizers at the Lakefield Golden Years Club. Lakefield District Lions Club is having their annual charity golf tournament Saturday, September 25th at Catchawano. They've also been doing some work along with our public works crew or our parks and rec crew at Curtis Park in Lakefield. It's looking really nice. So kudos to the Lakefield Lions Club, Lakefield District Lions Club and our staff. Lakefield Legion Branch 77 is also having a golf tournament on Saturday, September 18th at Catchawano. So any golf lovers out there, I don't golf personally, but give them a call. Peterborough County has their garbage to garden, which is digester and composters for sale. There are stipulations regarding COVID-19, but you can check out the Peterborough County Garbage to Garden program. Also notice that CEO Habitat for Humanity, Sarah Budd, will be leaving her position on October 1st of this year. She's served almost 15 years as the organization's leader and was instrumental in getting I think we have 2 habitat houses in the village. The Leahy Lane in Peterborough, 41 affordable condos from Habitat for Humanity has a completion date of February. So she's going to be retiring before that Leahy Lane condo project is done. But anyway, so I'm sure that the organization will be sad to see her go. But they say best of luck with future endeavors.
Thank you very much, Anita. Just briefly from my perspective, I want to take a moment to congratulate and thank the Deputy Mayor. Minister Freeland, the Deputy Prime Minister, did an event in Lakefield. It was basically an Ontario announcement, and I'm sure he was the MC of the event and did really, really well. So represented us really well. I also wanted to mention at the county level that they've established a new planning committee, and its mandate is got a lot of similarities to the work that we did a couple of years ago when trying to figure out how to streamline our processes here at the township. And so that committee is being charged with that responsibility at the county level. It hasn't met yet, but it's just been struck and it's supposed to meet shortly. I just wanted to turn to public health for a moment and to give you some stats. The vaccination stats are a little bit outdated because we update them on Wednesdays. So these are from last Wednesdays. We were 79.4 for first doses. These are of eligible population, so 12 plus. 69.6 people who received second doses. There were roughly about 14,000 eligible people in our health unit that have not been vaccinated. So that's the number that we're trying to whittle down. There have been 203,085 doses administered by Peterborough Public Health so far. And if you go online and you see it, that if you look at the numbers, the older your cohort, the greater your vaccination rate is generally. It's not an absolute, but generally that's the case. And I just wanted to take a moment, and I'm going to just read a couple of things. As most of you are probably aware, Ontario has a new medical officer of health, Dr. Moore, and he put an op-ed in the Toronto Star yesterday, and he said some things that I think are worth noting. And I'm just going to quote from what he said. Ontarians should expect cases to begin to rise as we enter the fall, as more people head indoors. This is not a cause for panic, he says. Case rates will fluctuate, but thanks to the protection offered by vaccines, growing case counts will not have the same meaning as during the previous waves of the pandemic. If you are vaccinated and get infected, what's referred to as a breakthrough case, your symptoms should be milder and have less severe health impacts for you personally and for the health system. Your risk of needing to be hospitalized or in the ICU is much less. Goes on and says, hospitalizations and ICU admissions, particularly for those not vaccinated, will need to be continuously monitored as these key indicators will tell us the true story of the effectiveness of our response against the virus. The success of the provincial vaccine rollout, which has resulted in one of the highest vaccination rates in the world, is having an impact in continuing to protect Ontarians against more severe cases of COVID-19, hospitalizations, and death. The extraordinary efforts of our public health partners and frontline healthcare workers has resulted in more than 80% of people living in Ontario ages 12 and up receiving a first dose of vaccine, and more than 71% receiving a second dose. Those are the provincial numbers, and so our numbers are very close to that. But I thought Dr. Moore's words were important, and so I just wanted to mention them. So that's my report, and that concludes the council portfolios, other new and unfinished business. I know Sherry has a couple of items. I have an item to mention after Sherry. Is there anybody else who wants to mention it? No, Sherry, go ahead.
Thank you, through you. So I've got a couple of items that I was trying to reach Mike Richardson because they're both in his, he's responsible for both of them, and didn't find out until about half an hour before the meeting today that he was on holidays. And so I'm going to have to defer to staff on both of them. The first one, I received a call from the Lakeville Village Lions Club, and they'd like to take over looking after the gardens in Young's Point, specifically in front of the Young's Point General Store and Kitty Corner at Linwood Homes. They're perennial gardens in needs of weeding, and the group would like to take these gardens on every year. I don't know if they belong to the township. Mike could have told me in, a minute if I'd been able to get them. So perhaps staff can have a chat with the Lakefield Village Lions Club. I'll give you the name of the contact. And all they're asking for doing this work through volunteer is that a plaque be put up that says that they are looking after the gardens, and they would like to have the township provide the mulch rather than them having to pay for it. So this is good volunteer action at work, and I'll leave it with staff to contact the Lakefield Village Lions Club. I don't want to wait until our next council meeting. They want to get at the gardens now. They said they're in pretty bad shape. So if we can do that sooner rather than later, I'd appreciate it. The second thing is the past August long weekend, there was a fireworks display that was the loudest I have ever heard. I don't know if you heard it too, Anita. You couldn't miss it. And I understand it came from the Lakefield campground. So I would like maybe Janice or Angie can tell me, was permission granted or permits given for this display?
I can respond to that, Sherry. The Lakefield Campground has actually had a fireworks display on the August long weekend for many years. They didn't do it last year because of the COVID issues and not wanting to create gatherings and that sort of thing. They did do it again this year. They pay a licensed person to let off the fireworks, and that company did indeed get in touch with the fire chief and got all the required sign-offs required from the fire chief. That information didn't get through to the recreation manager, so he wasn't aware that they were doing it again this year until after the fact. But yes, indeed, they did get the required approval from the fire chief.
Okay, I think we should look at putting some restrictions on the campground because we own it. And I would, if the rest of council will agree, would like staff to bring us back a report. The fireworks seem to be happening every weekend, sometimes during the week. It's upsetting to some of our local residents and pets and wildlife. I personally have been getting complaints. I think the mayor has, probably Anita has too. So I don't know if council will support getting a report back just on this particular location because we own it. I recognize that we can't enforce private residents putting off fireworks, but we certainly can have some control on this campground. So I make a motion that we ask for a report.
Donna, you're seconding that? All in favor? Carried.
Thank you. That's it.
I just on one piece of new business, and I might have raised this at the beginning. I just want to thank the staff for ensuring or facilitating our return to the council chambers. I'm sure the public has noticed that for the first time in I don't know how many months that we're back here. And you saw us work, and this is from a technological standpoint. It may seem easy, but it isn't easy. And Tanya is there. What they're, you know, yeah. We're trying to do this as a hybrid model, where we're partly in person here, but we're also doing it remotely. You saw a presentation come in remotely and then show it, and that's no easy task to do that. So I wanted to thank the staff for doing that. We've got our plexiglass set up between us so that we can speak and operate and in the protection of these bubbles that have been created. We have limits to how many people are allowed in at any given time. That's prescribed as how many. I think it's maximum 13 or 14 that we're allowed in here. So that's what we do. Anybody that wants to address us who is not able to come in person, we make arrangements so they can do it virtually. So we're trying to be as open and transparent as time moves on, and we come out of step 3 and there's more relaxation, and we'll be able to do more of it. But I just wanted to recognize staff because this has not been an easy thing to get done, so that we could return to the council chambers and to do it, because I know everybody, that safety of everybody that's here and of the public is a significant concern for everybody. So I just wanted to recognize folks for what they've done. There being no other new or unfinished business, we have bylaws. We have 3 of them: the amendment to the Retail Business Holiday Act, the POG zoning bylaw amendment, and the authorizing the PUG extension. So do Joanna mover, Donna, seconded by Anita. All those in favor, those are carried. We have a confirming bylaw that Sherry will move and Jerry will second. All those in favor, and a motion to adjourn. Jerry, seconded by Anita. All those in favor, and we are concluded. Thank you very much, everybody, and appreciate all your help.